Hello! This is I Think You Think, and today is October 15th, 2013, and the United States government is still shut down, and I'm still Justin, and on the other side of my computer screen is still James.
I'd say howdy, but that part of the government is still shut down.
And Sequoia.
Hi.
And we're your hosts. We carry no credentials worth noting. I Think You Think is a podcast that focuses on what we, your hosts, think, but also what you think. We believe that the forum of ideas should be open to everyone. Everyone should have the opportunity to challenge and be challenged by ideas. Not here to pass judgment, but merely I discuss ideas and topics. Podcast, first and foremost, is a conversation between us and hopefully you. You guys can, you folks can email us. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and at the Chicago Now blogs. All of the links are in the underbar of the video. If you're listening to the podcast, you can find all of these links on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ithink.youthink. I Think You Think is produced by StolenArts Productions. It's recorded live at Fisher International Studios. We are back in different locations again, but I think we're going to try to get together for the next one.
Hopefully. We should be good for it. I should be.
Yes, yes. So I know everybody's talking about the government shutdown. I know 2 weeks ago we talked about the government shutdown. The government shutting down is a pretty big thing. It is the week for political, social stuff. We will spend a little bit of time talking about the government shutdown. But we do have some other articles that are related to our political, social aspect, and so we'll kind of get into that. But before we get started, let's, since we kind of have fallen off the wagon on this one, what's been going on in everybody's lives lately?
Season 8 of Supernatural finally dropped on Netflix. So I know, it's so bad, and I like, anytime I talk about Supernatural, I'm like, listen, I'm sorry, I know it's a flaw in my personality, but I love Supernatural so much, and every time I'm watching, I'm like, I have so many feelings right now that are happening. So when I have not been studying, I've basically been glued. I've gone through like 8 episodes in 3 days. So that has been eating up quite a bit of my life lately. I know, for shame. Sorry.
For me, the new job is, I just got done with my second weekend, and since it was Columbus Day, we were open as well. Normally we're not open on Mondays. So that's really been taking up the majority of my time. Got the cable company that I want, so I was able to catch up on some shows I really enjoy, Face Off and Ink Master and Tattoo Nightmares and a couple others. So that's been exciting to actually finally catch up, because I was way behind on all of them, just hoping nobody was going to spill the beans on any of the reality television shows I would watch. But yeah, for me that's about it.
All right. My wife went last Tuesday to visit friends in Norway, so she had been gone for a week. She just got back today. But during that week, I took a majority of that time off. My brother had flown out from Ohio to spend some time with me and watch my kids for a couple of days that I had to work. But I've spent a lot of time this week playing video games. Probably on Sunday and Monday, the three of us, me, my son, my younger brother, we probably spent about 14 hours on Minecraft between the 2 days. So, yeah, we spent a lot of time on there. It was like we would start playing at lunch, and then, like, before we know it, it's time for dinner, and then we're still playing until it's time to go to bed. It was pretty intense, but it was fun. So, in the mornings, before everybody in the house would wake up, because I get up early, just because I'm used to it for work, I started playing Dragon Age 2, which I've had for a year and a half and have never played, and I started playing that one. And I also recently picked up BioShock Infinite, which I've started playing as well. And James had done a review last year or earlier this year
Earlier
on
this
it?
year. Yeah, it had
Was
to
it?
be this year. We only
Yeah.
had a few podcasts last year.
Yeah. So he did a review on it, and so I was thinking about that as I've been playing through it. So yes, maybe next week we'll talk a little bit about some of the games I've been playing. Let's see. Sunday, Walking Dead came back for its 4th season. So if you missed it, I'm sorry. It was a pretty good opening, and it looks like they've set up a really interesting sort of arc for this one. I don't want to give anything away if you have not seen it, but
Zombies.
yeah, there are zombies. So and guns, and children. There's a lot more children in this one.
It's true.
Yeah. So there you go. And I think it's season 8 of How I Met Your Mother recently went on to Netflix, and so I actually finished that a couple of weeks ago. So I'm all caught up for that one as well. Which they actually at the end of this season, the 8th season, I think whatever is the one that's on Netflix, they reveal the who is the mother finally. So I'm not going to tell you who it is, but watch it because it's worth it. It's the entire build-up for the entire season, and then the last couple of seconds. It's really sad. So there you go. So let's dive right into government shutdown stuff. So how is everybody surviving with the government having been shut down for what, 14 days now?
Yeah.
I want to say it's something like 14 days. It's basically.
I don't feel like it's had a.
I was going to say I think it's going to be about somewhere around better part of 2 weeks, if not just over.
Yeah. I don't think it's had a huge effect on me personally yet, at least not directly.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't really had any direct effect on my life. I mean, if it goes on long enough, obviously it could. But
I know that I was listening to an article on NPR where they were talking about in Washington, D.C., where a huge percentage of the population are federal employees. It's been awful. I mean, like, not only are all of these federal employees who are currently furloughed because of the government shutdown, but all of the stores and eateries and restaurants and everything that cater to this massive amount of employees who work, and then go across the street for a Subway or something downtown Washington, D.C. All those stores and restaurants are being hit very hard because of it. They're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars being lost. And so I know that I think that the mayor of D.C. is trying to petition the United States government because it's the only city in the entire United States that all of its normal municipal things like garbage and water and all that stuff runs off of federal dollars. All other cities run off of their local municipal taxes and things like that, and so they're not in danger of your trash not getting picked up, whereas in D.C. that is a potential possibility because of the fact that it runs off of the federal money. And so he's trying to petition the government to reopen at least that for the city.
I actually follow a DC worker on Facebook. I followed him for a long time. He runs a feminist page, and I started following his normal posts. And he's furloughed, and I know it's been interesting seeing it, like, just normal updates from somebody who's sort of like going through the furlough, and he's mostly just like, I'm so bored. Like, he's obviously, and he said that he's obviously blessed enough that he's not too concerned about his money situation yet, but, with not getting paid right now, but that he's just, like, bored out of his mind.
So I guess just to dive into this and get into the real meat of it, the public, the opinion polls that they've done seem to be favoring in a particular way who is really to blame for this shutdown. And so I kind of wanted to see what you guys think about, who's really to blame.
I think it's obvious who's to blame. I mean, they shut down the government. They said they were going to do it, and they did it. I mean, they took credit, the Republicans.
It's not like they're, shunning away from that either. It almost seems like they're wearing it like a badge of honor.
Yeah, I had seen, and I couldn't track it down before the show, but I had thought that I'd seen something regarding Boehner telling the Tea Party part of the Republicans basically that no more, like we're not playing this game, because originally Boehner and Harry Reid had come to an agreement on what they were going to do for the budget before, if I remember correctly, either very shortly after or right before the government was to shut down. They had reached a budget agreement between the two of them and the president. It didn't involve defunding the Affordable Care Act or anything like that. It was a budget that they had agreed on, and he took it back, and a core constituency of the Republicans, primarily the hardline Tea Party Republicans, said no, like not at all. We're not for that. We'll kick you out of your speakership if you go with this. And so he kind of bent over to them. And so while I would probably say yes, it's the Republicans, I think that there's a certain specific aspect of the Republicans that seem to be behind it in general. They say that there's not enough votes to pass it, but what I'm also hearing is that there are some Republicans who are also getting kind of fed up with everything that's going on. Is like, let's bring it to a vote, let's get this done. So yeah.
Well, because this can't be helping them to campaign for re-election when their time comes up. If their constituents feel that they are to blame for the government shutting down, they're probably not going to be voting for them again. So I would think that some of them are sort of thinking about their re-election prospects at a certain point.
Well, I know NBC, along with the Wall Street Journal, ran a poll, and oh no, I'm sorry, this is not that. This is a Gallup poll that I was looking at today because I was working on a blog post about the shutdown, and I was doing a little bit of research, and there's a Gallup poll that's been going on for a very long time where they rate how people feel about the public opinion of Republicans, the President of the United States, Democrats, all sorts of things. And right now, the Republican public opinion is the lowest that it's ever been in the last 20 years. So,
yeah, I saw that same one.
Good reason.
Yeah,
good
yeah.
Reason. They took their choice and they're going home. Like, really? Seriously?
Yeah, yeah. And keep in mind that they're still taking in a paycheck, so.
Which is, again, completely ridiculous. Considering, like you were talking about, it's not just the immediate people that are out of work while this happens that directly work for the government, but, the cascade effect of that. The businesses around, the businesses that are affected because they're not getting the proper support they need. It's not just those people that are in those branches of government that aren't getting paid, and the fact that the people that called the vote to close the government are still getting paid, it's just ridiculous to me. It's very frustrating.
I'm ready to, I think we hit as much as we can the last time we talked about the shutdown. It needs to end. I think we all agree that it needs to end, and I would venture to guess that people on both sides agree that it needs to end.
Mm-hmm.
While we can debate over whose fault it is, I think the three of us are all in agreement. And if anybody's got a difference in opinion, I'm willing to hear why you think it might be Obama's fault or why you might think it's the Democrats' fault. But the three of us are pretty much in opinion that it's the Republicans, or at the very least a very core, hardline aspect of the Republican Party. So unless there's anything else the rest of you want to say, there's one little topic for one of the articles I've got I want to kind of hit on, just to kind of, it's, you know what, it doesn't even, like, I'm not really concerned with what you guys think about it, because I assume that you're going to just, it's another one of those what the hell type things, and it's right before the government shut down. They tacked on to one of the bills a change in rules for how they can call the end of the shutdown to bring people back to vote on a budget and everything. And they gave that power exclusively to Eric Cantor, who is the majority leader in the House.
Yeah.
So he's the Republican majority leader in the House. And he's also someone who's known for gutting anti-corruption legislation, bribery legislation, but he basically runs the House. Even Boehner can't even bring budget up to a vote now. Only Eric Cantor can. And this is a last-minute thing that they tacked onto a bill right before the government shut down. And it's just a change in rules for the House. It's just plain. It's the kind of games that I feel like that they're playing.
Yeah, and that's well, I was looking through an article that kind of lists out what parts of the government are open and what are closed, which are partially open, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot that are scary, like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is closed. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's mostly closed. 300 of their 3,900 employees are still working. But still, it's the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I think they should probably be fully functional at all times, no matter what's going on. But the one that grabs me the most is the Office of Government Ethics, which is described, the OGE provides oversight and accountability of executive branch policies designed to prevent and resolve conflicts of interest. They're closed during this situation. And that is ridiculous to me. Like the government, they should really wow, there's one person from that department is working, and he or she is probably very overworked at the moment, because I just wanted to point that out.
That's almost like like at your work, if they're like, well, we're going to shut down, but I want you to still show up to work, James. It's not like you could even open the doors. It's not like you could actually run the business. You would pretty much just go in and make sure that, the place doesn't have a fire,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they could actually do any work. I mean, jobs like that, you have to have a staff of people doing things.
Yeah. I don't even know. I don't know what that one person is. It might be the security guy that works there, and he's just got to go in and make sure that, who knows? It doesn't give the details on who that one person is. Another scary one along with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is down is the Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board. And they reference in here that there was, and there should be, a current investigation will be frozen, including investigation of a West fertilizer explosion which killed 15 people in April. Texas could not determine a cause, so the federal investigation is significant. So this happened.
Yep. And
the company or the portion of the government that would go and find out what happened and hold people accountable is unable to do so. And with something like that, evidence is going to just be gone really quick. You know what I mean? It's not like they're going to leave the scene pristine until the government opens again. I'm not going to say it's minor consequences, because 15 people died. It's a major consequence. But there are these parts of the government that we take for granted that they're going to handle things that are drastically important, even though there's only 40 people that work for that part of the government. But it's really important, because that could be a company who's not taking care, and now they're not going to be held accountable, for 15 deaths. I mean, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's not them. But either way, those people should be there making sure this stuff's getting handled correctly. But yeah, I don't know. I don't believe that original part of the government that I was pointing out is closed during this situation. That's like in case of fire, firemen are immediately off duty until the fire's out, and then we can bring them back. It makes no sense,
Yeah.
Well, they also science research stations in Antarctica they had to close because of the funding. And so one of the biggest problems with that, I'm actually I'm a Facebook friend with somebody who went to school for marine biology, has spent time in Antarctica, and so this was very important to her. and she was mentioning the fact that in order to put these research stations into what they call caretaker mode, where there's only one or two people there basically making sure the place doesn't freeze. They have to shut down all sorts of science, and I mean it's very expensive to put them into this caretaker mode, much more expensive a lot of times than just letting it continue to run. And then also like the CDC, they've had to put to death a lot of their rats and mice and other animals that they use for research that have been genetically altered in order to get human diseases so that they can perform tests on them and things like that. They're very expensive, rats and rodents that they've had to genetically manipulate in order to get them like this, because there's no one there to take care of them. And so their only option... What was that?
It's going to work out really well. I have an idea. We can totally fix that problem. After all these congressmen don't get reelected, we can just use them instead. No genetic altering at all. They're going to be unemployed, It's going to be perfect. So they can go, and then, hopefully, we'll find a cure really quick.
I see. Aside from that being really awful, and I know it's a joke, but
yeah.
I'm actually afraid that people, because a lot of these Congress people are not going to be up for a vote until next year,
right?
And so and we always have a really short attention span, and I almost feel like part of the reason why they're like banking on it is, well, I have a year to fix whatever kind of problems I have in my constituency, and or redraw my district, so it really doesn't matter because all the people who are going to vote for me are going to be in my district anyway. So I don't know.
Well, people have less of a short attention span when their life is severely affected in a negative way. So if people who were receiving government benefits are no longer receiving government benefits because of this, and they refuse to bring the government back, I think come election time, people are going to be like, am I going to vote for the guy that set me back this far? Like, when your life is severely affected, it's a completely different thing.
It's true. And whoever's running against him is not going to let the people forget.
No.
Vote for Bob, who shut down the government, or, vote for William, who didn't.
Yeah.
That's all the ad they're going to need to run, really, in a lot of places,
Basically.
So, this is definitely something that, I don't want to forget. I hope come next year in November, or leading up to November, we will at least bring it up again. Provided that we are still around, I hope that we shall be. So we will cross our fingers.
Justin.
I know. So
I actually...
Go ahead.
Well, I had an article that was the 19 weirdest effects of the government shutdown. One of them is that there are a bunch of goats that are used by the government to eat poison ivy, and they got sent back home because they're no longer funded. The panda cam that that got shut down. There's a hiker that's missing in a national park in Idaho who's still been missing because there's nobody to go look for him park ranger wise.
Oh man.
Yeah. A lot about like the scientific frustration, even things overseas being shut down, like military cemeteries, memorials. Can't contact Congress.
They're on vacation.
The Asteroid Watch program for NASA has been shut down.
Pretty much all of NASA has been shut down. 98% of it, I think.
Yes. It was talking about the most searched terms for Americans over the last 7 days were this was a week ago, the government shutdown, healthcare.gov, Ted Cruz. There was supposed to be a big sort of crush for the ivory trade that got canceled. Like, they were going to do this big, they were going to crush all this ivory to, discourage people from trading it anymore, and then they had to stop That, cancel it. There was a T-Rex, an almost complete T-Rex skeleton that was supposed to be delivered to the Smithsonian that got stopped because there'd be nobody there to receive it. And there will be no new craft beer. No new beer recipes, no new alcohol can come in because the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau has been shut down, and they have to approve all new breweries, recipes, and labels for all alcohol before they can go to shelves. So
also, any companies that use the government's E-Verify system for confirming nationality and right to work and everything for new employees or potential applicants. That system is either working on a very limited or is not running right now at all. So companies can't even hire that use the E-Verify system. Not all companies use E-Verify, but the companies that do, I don't think they can hire right now.
Yeah, that's about it. That was all at least interesting on mine. I will say, just a little thing of my own that I'm going to add. One of my favorite things that I've seen on the internet since the government shutdown was this thing that somebody had written that said, day 3 of government shutdown, no longer feel compelled to pronounce Boehner correctly.
Yeah.
Which is probably my favorite thing of all time.
Okay, we want to move on to some articles then?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, you got some, Justin?
Sure. And this is kind of like spinning off of the government shutdown. One of the programs that is shut down is Women, Infants, and Children. That if you don't have your checks, and what Women, Infants, and Children is for low-income women, children, pregnant women. It gives them checks so that they can go out and buy milk and eggs and a formula and things like that for themselves, and butter and things like that for themselves and for their kids. A great program. It's a program that my wife and I utilized years ago when she was pregnant, or we were pregnant with our first kid, and before I have the job that I have now. And so I think it's a great program, and my mom was even on it when I was younger as well. So anyway, basically, if you don't any of the checks you don't have, and they give you checks like 3 months out. So some people are okay, some are not going to be okay and then anybody who's trying to get into the program can't get into it. But this has to do with not specifically that, but with food stamps, which is a little bit different. And it's talking about some of the misconceptions that people kind of associate with food stamps and those who receive food stamps. I run into this even with my employees at work who are typically minimum wage earners. They don't have a lot of income coming in, and they still work full time, and they still, even so, get irritated and upset by people who use the SNAP program, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and it used to be called LINK. And basically, it gives you food stamps. It's like on a debit card type thing that you can use to purchase food items. Now we can talk about which items they shouldn't be allowed to purchase, like energy drinks and things like that. That's kind of silly, but they can, and everything. But a lot of some of the things people are not aware of, and which I don't get into discussions with people at my work about this, other than just saying, well, I'm not interested in having a conversation. But that the largest recipient of food stamp beneficiaries are white children. That the overwhelming majority of people who who are getting food stamps, who are working abled people, work full time or part time. That the disabled and senior citizens make up a large percentage of food stamp beneficiaries. 76% of the SNAP benefits go towards households with children, and that a majority of food stamp beneficiaries use the program for just 6 months, and that's it, and then they're done, and that the rate of fraud within the program is actually less than 1%. And so when people talk about all of these things, they're actually fighting against a program that's very successful, that has very little fraud. I mean, I'd love to see a company that has fraud as low as less than 1%, and a company and a program that they think is like being abused by people who get their food stamps but drive around in these really nice cars and have iPhones or dress a particular way, and so yeah, it's frustrating as somebody who grew up as a child. For much of my childhood, my mother was getting food stamps, still actually gets benefits from the government, and as somebody who, for a period of my family's life, me and my wife and our kids, also had to use the food stamp program, I take it very personally. So.
I know I saw like a receipt that somebody had found that had like seafood on it or something, like really expensive seafood that somebody had used their food stamps to purchase, and everybody online was railing against it, and I was kind of like, could be like their birthday dinner or something, like you don't know, like it's very easy to make sort of snap judgments about these things when you've never had to use them, and you're not in the situation. I know one of my friends was employed, but she didn't make very much money at all, not enough to, really properly feed herself and pay all of her bills. So she was receiving food stamps, and how she said it to me was that the food stamps allowed her to get all of her basics. Like it allowed her to actually like stock her kitchen so that she, wasn't forced to save up for $5 so she could go eat fast food. Like she could actually eat properly at home on a regular basis, as opposed to like pinching and scraping and saving to eat for $5 while she was out. So it enabled her to eat healthy.
Right, and the other thing to always keep in mind is you can still budget on a system like that, and within that budget still say, yeah, every few months, because the amount that you don't spend in 1 month does carry over to a next month. If you budget correctly, maybe every couple of months you can afford something, kind of a nice meal. And it's possible that yes, that person was abusing the system, or that was one of those 1% and an example of fraud. However, my guess is that's probably not the case. My guess is it's probably a one type of thing that happened to happen because of how they had budgeted, or they had gotten food stamps, was not familiar with how to use the program adequately yet, and went and spent it in a not great way. But the benefit is that here they have an opportunity to have money to buy food that they wouldn't have had before, and not just say, okay, well, good luck, we're not going to give you anything, I hope you find enough food to eat this week.
But how much could you learn from anybody's grocery receipt? Like one shot, a single moment in grocery shopping. I went grocery shopping today. You'd look at it and, you could presume things that wouldn't necessarily be true. Some of those things would be true because I bought some things I buy all the time, but I also bought some things I don't buy all the time. And who knows? Like a single shot like that, it's like, Justin, if I took a short video of you tripping down the stairs, people could presume that you're clumsy, when it could be that one moment where you trip down the stairs and you're never going to trip down those stairs again, like it's a single snapshot of a moment that you can presume whatever you like off of it. You can take that as the example if you want, but it's just a drop in the bucket. You're presuming, like the people are presuming things about it that they don't actually know. It's merely presumption.
It's the same thing with why I have a problem when people bring up, oh, there they are driving this really nice car, or they have new Nikes on, or they're dressed in, whatever name brand line, and yet they're using a Snap card or a Link card. One, are they borrowing that car? Is that a friend's car that they have to use because they don't have enough money to afford their own car? Did they have to shop at outlet malls? Could they have spent their money differently? Sure. Did they get the from their church or anything like that? You know, that these are all those types of things that people just they don't consider. They just look at the fact that, you know, they have this conception that somebody who's on Snap or somebody that's on Link should be dressed in ratty clothes or should, you know, be walking everywhere or,
Maybe they
you know, I
had a
don't
good
know.
job and they're locked in that car and they've had those clothes since before then, but they've gone on hard times and now they still have that car payment. They still own those clothes, you know, but they can't afford to live the way they did, you know, because their job changed. You know, they went from whatever they were making to, you know, a job that's more along the lines of what, you know, the average person has. And, you know, you can't just, like, go and return the car and be like, sorry.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that doesn't really
Especially
work.
if you're in the middle of a lease or something. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's, you know, it's sorry, you're going to have to still keep making that payment.
And if you're early in just payments in general, you know, like you're not going to be able to get back what you owe by selling it. So,
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of presumptions about when they purchase these things, and you know, again, it's easy to presume. It's easy to look at somebody and say you think you know from the snapshot of a moment, but it's not so easy to know. There's a million factors, you know, and it's also a choice we make. Do we presume the worst? Do we presume the best, or do we go about it with an indifferent eye? You know, there's no way to really know. There's no way to really know.
Well, and I think that's kind of like a really like awful road to go down. Like, how does this person need to look to you in order to make you feel comfortable with them being on food stamps? Like, that's a really like, you know, so they have to do they have to dress badly to make you feel better about the fact that they're on food stamps? You know, should they not, you know, like you said, they could have been borrowing that car. You know, the shoes could have been a present. Like, who knows? You know, do they have to look and behave in a certain way to make you feel better about them being on food stamps? Like, it has nothing to do with you, really.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, as somebody who was a recipient of, I just it drives me crazy. So
Yeah, it's a difficult position. I mean, and I would presume that there is at least a reasonable percentage of those people that maybe come off as stiff and cold because it's probably not comfortable to walk up and let, you know, the cashier there and everyone in line behind you know that you're getting assistance, because most people aren't going to take pride
right,
in that. You know what I mean? You can be happy to get it, but still, you know, you feel like there's a whole other level of presumption, no matter what car you're driving, no matter what clothes you're wearing. So that can be
right,
uncomfortable for the individuals as well, to be in that situation where they have to pull out that card, line behind them, you know, and deal with that like social stigma, you know, which shouldn't be there, but we all know it is. So that might cause them to come off as stiff and not as approachable, or, you know, as fun of an interaction as some customers and guests can be, which probably adds to people's desire to see that negative side, you know, because sometimes they're seeming stiff, so, oh, that guy was a jerk. Oh, look at his car. Let's take that route and decide, you know, how much of a jerk they really are, you
right.
know, and like how bad can this be? Because, you know, we do that. People get, of course, especially in those repetitive interactions with people that we get in retail or customer service in general. You know, we see people in odd ways because we see them so often and so
Mm-hmm.
regularly.
And
This
I'd
could have
rather
been a whole
spend some.
podcast unto itself.
Yeah, now I'd rather spend
Yes.
more. I'd rather spend more of our money on social programs like that than funding, you know, paying the wages of a Congress that isn't even working right now. So.
That's a fact. And like all the retired congressmen, that's a whole nother. We're like filling this podcast up with
Congressman
future
widows
podcasts.
benefits.
So, moving on. What other articles do you guys have?
Okay, I have one, and it's not super new. No, actually it is. It's from October 12th. Okay, 10 countries with unique human rights problems. Okay, so Ireland has no transgender recognition. They're the only country in Europe that doesn't have any laws for officially recognizing transgender people.
That's weird
that's number
because they're right in the back door of the UK, and like that's more common in the UK.
Yeah.
It's an important. It says here that 80% of Irish transgender people have attempted suicide. 80%. That's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, so number 9. The Philippines does not allow divorce. There's no divorce in the Philippines at all. If you want to get divorced, time to move. Probably just to Malaysia. They share an island, so it wouldn't be that difficult. Belarus is the last European country with the death penalty.
Where was
which
that?
is Belarus.
Oh, I don't even know where that is.
Yeah, I don't know. If
Evidently in Europe,
it's
because
small.
it's a European country.
It's part of the former USSR,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
and it still executes prisoners. Israel rejected a human rights review, which is surprising and not surprising all at the same time to me. Okay, here's one that we all know. Number 6, the USA has no paid maternity leave. It is the only developed nation not to mandate paid maternity leave for mothers.
Yeah.
The only other countries with that distinction are Papua New Guinea, Swaziland, Liberia, and Lesotho, which I've never even heard of, none of which come within touching distance of the top 100 GDPs by nation.
Yeah.
The USA is number 1, and the right to assistance of motherhood is part of Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
And a lot of Western countries not only have women's paid maternity leave, but also have paid maternity leave for men as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sweden.
Yes. Speaking of Sweden, when my wife was traveling to Norway, she had a layover in Sweden for four hours. I didn't ask her what it was like, existing in, the best country in the world for 4 hours, but, there was a little glow that she had when she came back.
She's like, this is the nicest airport I've ever been in. And then she just stayed there for 4 hours, and they called her flight, and she's like, I don't know if I'm going to go. Anyways, number 5, Iran has legal organs trade, which probably isn't shocking because it's Iran. But it's actually legal to sell organs there.
Okay.
Number 4, the USA has no universal health care. So until recently, the United States and South Africa were the only industrialized nations not to provide universal health care to residents. Now the U.S. stands alone. So South Africa beat us to universal health care.
Well, the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, originally was supposed to be a single-payer universal health care system. Mm-hmm. And the current way that it is, the complicated craziness of the exchanges and everything, was the whatever it's called, working together, the compromise between the two parties.
Yeah, well, we didn't get there. But, hey, we're last on the list, so fashionably late, or just, whatever. Okay, so the USA does not honor treaties. Famously, the United States is the only UN member state not to have ratified the Kyoto Agreement on climate change, which sets targets to reduce carbon emissions. Though the U.S. initially signed it, George W. Bush decided against joining due to concerns over the economic impact it would have, and now I'm just adding this on to the end of that, to his friends and business. And we also have the worst track record for ratifying human rights treaties out of all wealthy nations.
Yeah.
The Convention on the Rights of the Child has been ratified by every country in the UN except the U.S. and Somalia. That's a good country to be grouped with.
We are not in good company with the human rights stuff.
No. I don't even know how to pronounce this country. Mauritania.
Sounds good.
Mauritania still has slaves. They didn't make slavery a crime until 2007, making it the last country in the world to outlaw the practice. While that is bad enough, between 10 and 20% of its population is estimated still to be in slavery, up to 680,000 people. Extremely poor country, and slave owners are often living in poverty themselves. That's got to suck, to be a slave of someone who's only like a half cent richer than you are.
Can't even afford, I was going to say can't even afford to pay you, but you're a slave, so.
But as a twist, and this is kind of interesting, there is a racial element to slavery, with darker-skinned people usually owned by the lighter-skinned people. I thought it was their version.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of holds par for the course, is our human ignorance. So in the last 6 years since slavery was outlawed, only one slave owner has been convicted under the new laws. Foreign journalists who attempted to report on the issue are often kicked out of the country or followed around by a minder from the government. And number one on the list, China is holding a Nobel Peace Laureate prisoner. But I think we knew about this. This was kind of in the news for a while, a couple of years ago. When a Burmese government released opposition against Aung San Suu Kyi, it left China in a unique position of being the only country to have a Nobel Peace Prize laureate in prison. He was in prison for 11 years for criticizing China's government, which led him to missing the Nobel Awards ceremony in 2010. It was accepted by his wife, and he still remains in prison.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, right? All of those are pretty much crazy.
Well, one of the youngest Nobel Peace Prize, not people who've received it, but that are being considered for it, is 16, Malala Yousaf, I think, the little girl, the young girl that had gotten shot in the face.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In Iran, was it? I can't remember.
Fact check. I'll go fact check right now.
Thank you. But she wanted, she was basically standing up for education of young girls and women, and the Taliban shot her in the face. She was rushed off to a European hospital. There was surgery done. She was on The Daily Show last week. She met with the president of the United States, and one of the things she had said to him was that what we're doing over there with the drones is actually helping fuel terrorism. That's one of the things she said to him. So yeah.
She is actually from Pakistan.
Pakistan, okay. But yeah, so there you go. She just came. There was a book basically that she has just come out with or written or whatever that tells her story.
Wow.
And she was 14 when she was standing up to the Taliban for education for women.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and she's very well spoken. It's good. I recommend, at the very least, if you haven't seen it, The Daily Show has her interview with Jon Stewart, and it was very good. She's a wonderful human being.
Definitely. Well, I know you got an early morning tomorrow, Justin, so we might want to call this the end of our podcast for the night.
I will say that yesterday was Columbus Day.
It's true.
And Columbus, obviously, if you didn't know, he wasn't the one to discover the Americas, right?
He wasn't?
No, because there were people already here that had come over a long time before. Okay? He wasn't the first one here. Not to mention, you had mentioned slave trade. Columbus also kind of started the whole ball rolling on the slave trades, going between, they kind of,
Man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do some research on him. He was not a great person. So, I mean, not to ruin your day about
I actually kind of feel like Columbus Day is turning into I Hate Columbus Day. I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems like more and more people are kind of like, dude, Columbus was an asshat. Why are we celebrating him?
Yeah, he actually ended up, after his third trip to the Americas, because he was doing such a bad job running the whatever it's called, colony that he was kind of overseeing in the Americas, that he was brought back in chains. He was put in jail. He ended up working with some of the lords and nobles and got himself out of jail and got to keep his fortune, but he had all of his titles and fancy names and everything removed. But at least he got to keep his money and didn't have to spend the rest of his life in jail. But yeah, he got in a lot of trouble.
That couldn't be more American.
Yeah, I know, right?
If you think about it. Wow.
At least I get to keep my money.
Yeah, I get to keep my money, and yeah, that's all that matters. And I don't really go to jail for a really long time.
Yep.
We held that tradition true.
So yeah, Columbus Day, not really that great of a federal holiday. Maybe choose something else. But the government would have to get back to work in order to do something like that.
It's right around my birthday. We could convert it to James Day because it's right around my birthday.
So I thought that already happened.
I mean, but it's not a national holiday yet. I know it's surprising. It's really surprising. Yes. But, you know, we could just...
If you'd like to start a petition, click the link in... No, there's no link in the underbar for... All right, so... yeah, let's wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will see everyone next week. Please remember to like the video, share the podcast, share the video. You know, comment, send us email. I think you think 2012@gmail.com. You know, we're always looking for people who want to come on the show or are interested or want to send us information. Anything like that we are more than happy to give you guys, everybody, a podium to kind of talk from. You know, we might not even agree with you, but it's here, it's available for you. Especially if you disagree with us, come and let us know. So, okay. Anybody else want to wrap
Nope, I'm
up
good.
With anything?
Thanks everybody again for listening and for watching.
Bye.
There you go.